Hey solos, so you're going to Walt Disney World all by yourself, but you want to kind of save some money or at least be thoughtful about how you're spending money. How can you do that as a solo? Well, solo spoiler, going to Disney World solo is actually very economical and you should not feel guilty about it at all. And in this episode, we are going to talk all about it. Hi everyone, it's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do, and welcome to Disney Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about some budgeting, money saving, dollar stretching types of tips for your own solo vacation. Ones that I kind of have done instinctively because nobody in my family would have thought of me as a money saving type of gal. But I also feel like I can be kind of cheap sometimes in that I really want to make the money that I spend last as long and get as much value as possible. And so in this episode, I'm going to talk about some of those tips. Now, you can always follow me on social media, Instagram, Threads, and Facebook. All those links are below. But remember, there's also a link to the upcoming there's also a link to a survey about my upcoming trip to Walt Disney World, asking you to vote on some of the things that I could do there. And one of them is should I do a free thing, go to the water park, or should I go shopping? And so far, everyone's really into me going shopping. I don't know if you can hear the cats in the background there. They'd like some shopping too. So I don't know if you also enjoy to spend money like I do. So anyway, please make sure you go and fill out that survey. But also the survey has some questions about the future of the podcast. And so far the answers have been just really illuminating and interesting and helpful and so heartwarming as well. So thank you so much for doing that. And please, you have another week to fill out that survey and it will be really great because we are planning the future of this podcast. We're planning year 2 of the Disney Solo Magic podcast. Remember, you can listen to this on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. Please, please, please make sure you subscribe, rate, review, share with other people. That does so much to letting people know that the podcast exists. And it really, again, helps support the future of the podcast. If you want to support me directly, you can buy me a coffee. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/solo magic. No, it's /Disney Solo Magic, whatever. The link is below. And for $3 American, $5 Canadian, you can support the podcast and help keep it as ad-free for as long as possible. All right, let's get into it. All right, so let's talk about budgeting your vacation because I recognize that you might have some guilt about going to Disney by yourself, going on vacation by yourself, especially if you are living with a family and to say, oh no, I'm going to spend all this money for myself. That might make you feel some sort of way, as the kids say. And so my first tip for you is to leave any guilt about your Disney vacation somewhere else. Just get rid of it. Do not bring it with you to Disney. That guilt about saving money, that guilt about spending money is going to be the Iago, the parrot from Aladdin on your shoulder. And it might seem friendly, it might seem useful, it might seem cute, but the fact is, as soon as it just is between you and the parrot, all of a sudden it is evil. It is snarky, it has some other plans, and it is just going to ruin the day. And that is not what you want because Disney is the most magical place on earth, but it is also one of the most expensive places on earth. And you're not going to get away from spending money. And so if you go into your Disney vacation being oh my God, I don't want to spend, $6 on a Mickey bar because that's really expensive. Yeah, it is really expensive. And if you don't want to spend $6 on ice cream, that is completely up to you. No problem. You do you, bibbidi bobbidi boo. But the fact is, if you start making those decisions and looking at the dollar amount as if you were in the real world and not in Disney World, it is going to continuously ruin your vacation because $6 for a Mickey bar is the cheapest ice cream you're going to get. And if you really want a Mickey bar, and if you don't go to Disney that often, then it is why you are there. So I would get rid of the guilt. And that's not to say blow your budget. That's not to say don't worry about money, but I would not bring that guilt with you because it is not going to do you any favors. This podcast episode is not going to tell you to bring PB&J sandwiches to the parks with you. Look, if you want to do that, that's great. Go for it. But the fact is, when you are at the most expensive place on earth, you just have to get into that system. And so the goal is to make your value resort dollars feel like deluxe dollars by just being smart about how you're spending money, being smart about how you're allowing that money to stretch, and being smart about not allowing Iago on your shoulder to ruin your vacation with guilt. And that, solos, is so, so important. The fact is, when you go to Disney World solo, you're saving money. I have one family member that if he heard that, he would roll his eyes so hard that he would fall over. The fact is, when you're going solo, you're saving money because unlike going to a cruise, for example, or unlike going to an all-inclusive resort or other places, when you are booking your hotel room at Disney World and you're a solo, it doesn't cost you any extra money than if you had two people in the room with you. So I've been to a few all-inclusive resorts as a solo, and I've had to pay a solo supplement, which is the amount of money it would be if I was with somebody, and that way they are getting what they've budgeted. They've budgeted for 2 adults in that room, and so they need to make that money up for that other person. So let's say the all-inclusive resort was $3,000 for a couple, right? So $1,500 each. So now if I'm going by myself, maybe I would think it cost $1,500, right? But no, it probably would cost $2,000, maybe even $2,500, because they are making up that money. They have budgeted that money. They've budgeted that room for 2 people. But at Disney, that's not the case. So if a room says it's going to be $250 American a night, it doesn't increase if you have 2 people in the room, and it doesn't decrease if it has 1 person in the room. So if you are going by yourself, you're not you're not spending any more money on that room. Sure, you're not splitting it with somebody, but you also don't have to pay a single supplement. Also, when you go by yourself, you don't have to buy food for 2 people. You don't have to buy tickets for 2 people. You don't have to buy lightning lanes for 2 people. The fact is, it's actually a really good option. Walt Disney World is a really good option for solos because you don't need to pay those additional costs for people who aren't with you. And, I've been on all-inclusive resort trips with people who aren't really into it. And it is such a bummer to have someone on vacation with you that is nah, I'm not really into this. So imagine spending all that money at Walt Disney World, and maybe you have already done this yourself, and you're why are we even paying for this person who is totally uninterested? So just remember, when you're going solo, don't feel guilty. You're not spending any extra money because you're there by yourself, and it's only going to ruin your trip. And frankly, having somebody on your Walt Disney World vacation who doesn't want to be there is one of the worst things ever, All right, my second tip is that if you're going solo and you have some flexibility in when you can go, try to go during a period that is a little bit cheaper and that doesn't have a lot of crowds, which to me is a win-win. So oftentimes you can find cheaper times for Disney in between major holidays. So, for example, January and February and like the first couple weeks of March traditionally have been very cheap times to go because it is after Christmas. Everyone is like done with their family and before March break or spring break. And you can often get really kind of inexpensive hotel rooms during that time. And of course, like the ticket prices do change all the time. Do you know that? Like, the ticket prices for each, like, oh gosh, the ticket prices for each park on each day changes all the time, and it's based on demand and things like that. The same thing with lightning lanes. So if you're going during a period, a down, like a low attendance period, then your hotel room would be cheaper, the ticket prices would be cheaper, as well as lightning lanes. So like I said, January, February, and maybe the first couple weeks of March. Another time that's really cheap is like July and August. And that, I don't know if that's a new trend that always really surprises me. And I think it's because people don't want to go to Florida when it is that hot. I've done some like poking around, and like the week of August the 17th seems to be like the cheapest week in the summer. It must be the week that school starts in Florida, something like that. But also Solo's D23, the big fan expo, is coming to Disney the last week of August, which also happens to be my birthday. So you should come. I'm going to be there. One of the listeners recommended that I go to do like content, but also like I feel like we're all going to, like, a whole bunch of us are going to do a meetup and hang out, and that sounds cool. Not the whole vacation, because we all love solo travel, but I don't know, I think it'd be pretty cool. You should come. But August 17th is a pretty cheap week. Another time that's really cheap to go is that like first couple weeks of September. September has gotten more expensive and busier because Halloween is much more of a thing that starts in August. But in September, it's not too expensive as well. Also, the first couple weeks of November in between Halloween and American Thanksgiving, also really inexpensive. Right after American Thanksgiving, that first week of December, also a very cheap week to go. So there are times that you can go that if you're going solo and you have some flexibility to the dates that you can go, then take advantage of those kind of low park times, those low attendance times when things are a little bit cheaper. And that is kind of how I plan my trips, because I have quite a lot of flexibility in my schedule. Also, a part of this tip is that you can always, I always kind of fall. I always kind of fall into finding this out. And there is a way when you are booking a hotel that if you like select your hotel that you want and then you select your room, there is an option that's like check rate. And if you click that, you can see the price of the hotel room for the week, the few days, the week that you are looking. Or I've also seen like a whole monthly breakdown of all the prices. I've never done this. I've never done this like on purpose. I keep like falling into it in the middle of like just, screwing around and searching. So I'll see if I can do it consciously, and like I'll do a little reel or a live or whatever that goes through that. But again, if you're able to, if you can follow my weird instructions, you can also take a look at the prices for the different rooms and then book your vacation accordingly. But just note, however, that just because the deluxe resort that you're looking for has a particular set of discounts, it doesn't mean that the value resort is going to be the same discount for the same days. I don't know, maybe like rich people are just on a different calendar for money, but it isn't consistent across the different hotels. So it's not like all the hotels will be 35% off on the same day. Or all the hotels will have the 30% off. Like, no, that's not how it works. I don't know why. I don't know how. But that's not the case. So just kind of keep that in mind. But again, if you are looking at those like low period days, that the low period weeks, that really helps with that. Another tip when you're booking your hotel is, let's say you do know that you want to go to Disney in like 6 months. There's days that you want to go because maybe it's your birthday or something like that, but there isn't a discount on that room yet. It is just rack rate. Okay, so number one, you should never be paying full price for a Disney hotel room. There are always discounts, and you should always get a discount. So you can book it. You can book it for the rack rate. You can book it for the normal rate, but do not leave it. Like, do not pay that. So what you can do, and I've done this so many times when I know there's particular dates I want to go, again, like my birthday, I will book the hotel room that I want for the dates that I want. And then periodically I'll go in and I will click the modify reservation button. And when I click the modify reservation button, it will show me different discounts that I can apply to that hotel room. So maybe for me, like it would be a Canadian discount or an annual pass discount or a Disney Plus discount, or even just like the regular discounts they have. But if you click that, you will get that discount back. You don't get any, like when you book a hotel room, you have to pay for that first night. So you don't get the money back, like the discount for that first night, but it will go towards other, the other nights that you're staying there. So it's really convenient as a way to hold your room, but still get that discount. So just remember, solos, never pay rack rate. Keep in mind that you can kind of poke around and find some discounts and apply those discounts no matter when you see them, even if it is months after you book that room or like a week before your trip. It's really, really useful. I do that all the time. It's a great way to ensure you're saving the amount of money that you want. Now, speaking of hotels, when you are like watching different or listening to different tips about saving money at Disney, you will hear probably that you could stay at a Good Neighbor hotel for a fraction of the cost of a Disney trip or Disney hotel, and you should do that if you want to save money. And I am not going to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you that. Now, that advice is true. The advice is true. You will save more money if you go to a Good Neighbor hotel, 100%. A lot of them are by Disney Springs. There's a few that are kind of close to Disney Springs and you can walk. Other ones are a little bit further away. They often have shuttles. They often just run once or twice a day and only go to one park, and then they'll be like, now you can take the monorail to the other parks or take the buses to the other parks, but they still want you to get to the parks. And like you could get like a 4-star hotel for the price of a moderate resort, right? Like 100%. I'm not going to argue with that, but I do not recommend going to the Good Neighbor hotels. Now, again, you do you, bibbidi bobbidi boo. You might really love it, and I love that for you. But when I go to Walt Disney World, I am not interested in going to a hotel and going to Disney World. I am going to Walt Disney World Resort property, which is twice the size of Manhattan, the size of San Francisco, to live in a world of fun and creativity and make-believe and safety. And I've stayed at a couple Good Neighbor hotels, and they've been fine. They've been fine. Not sketchy, not weird. They have just been totally fine. But it felt like I was staying at any kind of good Western, best Western, fair Western, mediocre Western. It felt like I was staying at any sort of Best Western at any American city. And if I just wanted to stay at a Best Western in an American city, I would go someplace other than Orlando. I mean, I'd just go someplace else. I'm going to Walt Disney World. I want to be in that bubble. And so I think that the way to like stretch your money is actually to stay at a Disney World resort, to stay at the value resort, to stay at the moderate resort, even if you could stay, like a 4-star at like around Disney Springs, because what you're doing now is like, you're making every moment that you are on vacation at the Walt Disney World Resort property part of the Walt Disney World Resort property. I feel much greater value in waking up at my All Stars hotel than I would, or than I have, staying at the Good Neighbor Hotel, because the Good Neighbor Hotel, I had to kind of be on. I had to keep my wits about me. There was nothing unsafe about it, for sure. But I still felt like I needed to be more more aware of my surroundings. And then when I went down for breakfast, it was a complimentary breakfast. That's great. Who doesn't love to save money on breakfast? But it felt chaotic, and it felt dirty, and it felt busy. And if I'm going to be super chaotic and dirty and busy, I'd rather be eating a Mickey waffle. You know what I mean? So I think for the money that you are going to pay, the premium that you pay at Walt Disney World Resort, staying at their hotels, it is a much better value for your money, because especially when you're solo, because the money that you're paying keeps you in that world and ensures that the money that you are paying for that vacation is stretching to every moment of your trip. You're not on a sketchy bus going through Orlando. You aren't sharing breakfast with people who might live at the hotel, things that have happened to me. Instead, you are in this city, this Walt Disney World Resort city, and you're making the most of your money. Even if it is a value resort, you're making the most of your money. And I just think that there is something really important about that. Now, the value resorts, there are 4 value resorts: All-Star Sports, All-Star Music, All-Star Movies, and they are essentially the same hotel. So I've said on this podcast before that you should choose your hotel based on price and vibes. So All-Star Sports is usually the cheapest hotel. And if you can spend a little bit extra money and you're more inspired by movies, then go and stay at All-Star Movies. The other 2 value resorts are Art of Animation and Pop Century. Now, I don't hear a lot of solos going to Art of Animation, because Art of Animation is really known as a hotel that has a lot more family suites. So you don't really need a family suite if you're going solo. So I'm just going to talk about Pop Century. Pop Century is the most expensive out of the All-Stars, and taking Art of Animation aside, if you're just looking at the All-Stars and Pop Century is always going to be the most expensive. However, Pop Century, I think, is everyone's favorite value resort. There's something really special about it because it has the monorail. And the reason why I really love it is that I can walk over to Art of Animation. Art of Animation and Pop Century are neighbor hotels that are connected by a bridge, and they have the Hourglass Lake, which is a body of water in between them. So it's like a 5-minute walk, maybe a 10-minute walk in between the lobbies. And I've eaten things at Art of Animation that they didn't have at Pop Century, and it's still just kind of a chill resort. So if you're just in your jammies at the end of the day, but you still just have a little bit of energy. Walking over to Art of Animation is something I've done a lot of times, just to get some different feels, get a different vibe. Because there is the Skyliner, I also will spend some time at Caribbean Beach Resort, which is the next resort on the Skyliner. And my favorite breakfast is at the Riviera Resort, which is these lemon ricotta pancakes. And so I'll stay at Pop Century, which is a value resort, and I will take the Skyliner over to the Riviera, and I'll eat my delicious fancy breakfast. And then I will definitely not go and swim at one of the quiet pools at the Caribbean afterwards, because you should never swim in a pool that is not your own resort. So I definitely have never done that, ever. Also, there is one quiet pool at Caribbean Beach Resort. It is the one that's like the closest to the Skyliner, and it's quite far away from the lobby, and it has its own little snack bar. And so it's kind of a cool place to like hang out if, for example, your flight is like in the middle of the afternoon and you just want to like go swimming and then eat something, and but only if you're staying at the Caribbean Beach Resort, obviously. And one final tip about accommodations regarding saving money or stretching your dollar. Actually, no, there's two. Okay. The first one is you can do a split stay at Walt Disney World really easily. What I mean by that is that you can split your stay in between two different hotels. So let's say you really want to stay at Deluxe Resort, but your budget just can't afford all 4 nights or whatever at the Deluxe Resort. Well, you can split that stay in between 2 other resorts. So let's say you want to stay at a value or moderate for 2 of the days, and then 2 of the next days you're staying at a Deluxe Resort. That's really, really easy. It's easy for them to do at Disney, like in terms of booking, and it's kind of easy for you to do as a solo because you don't need to worry about schlepping your bags. You don't need to worry about moving your bags in between hotels. What you can do is go to Bell Services. You can tell them that you are staying at another hotel that night, and they will transfer your suitcases over, and you will arrive at your hotel room. You'll arrive at your hotel room with your suitcases already in your room. It's so easy and so convenient. And this year, if you the day that you check into a Walt Disney World Resort hotel, you get access or admission to the water parks for free. And so if you're doing a split stay, you can actually make use of that perk both times. So you can make use of that perk when you're checking into your first hotel and your second hotel. So AJ from DFB Guide, she actually made this suggestion because the day that you arrive, like your first day at whatever hotel you're going to, you're probably arriving a little bit later in the day, a little bit later in the afternoon, maybe your flight came in, maybe you're driving, etc. So you can't make use of the whole day at the water park. But the second day, like if you were switching hotels, that second second day that you're checking in, you have all day. So you could start the day at the water park. So that seems like a really great option too. The other thing that I wanted to say about accommodations is that you can rent Disney Vacation Club points. So the Disney Vacation Club, or DVC, is essentially Disney's timeshare. And like a lot of different timeshares, there are third-party companies where you can rent the different points and get a room at a deluxe resort at the DVC hotels, the DVC villas, which are all deluxe resorts, for less money than you would get if you were booking on the Disney website. And I did an interview with Melissa from Dave's Day Vacation Rentals quite a few months ago. It's a Canadian company, although they mainly serve Americans. There are some other companies out there. A lot of people swear by them, and I know a lot of solos actually that have taken advantage of renting DVC points as a way to get a deluxe experience for not necessarily deluxe prices. So that's also an option if you're looking to save money. Okay, so tip number 2 was 20 minutes long. And it all had to do with accommodations. Let's talk a little bit about park tickets and park experiences. So as I said, the ticket prices between the parks or among the parks are different every day for every single park. It is always the most expensive to go to Magic Kingdom. It will always be the least expensive to go to Animal Kingdom. No matter what day, that is always how it's going to work. The price isn't so different that I think that you should not go to Magic Kingdom over Animal Kingdom because you could save $15 like that. I would never recommend that level of money saving, quote unquote money saving, when you're going to Disney. Like if you're going to Disney, you're going to go to Magic Kingdom. Go to Magic Kingdom, obviously. It's the OG. It's the original. It's amazing. It's so magical. So again, like just think of that Iago on your shoulder, right? Like do not bring that guilt with you. So, but when you're in the parks though, you can think of some ways to save money or to make your money kind of stretch faster or stretch longer. So, one of the things is food. And I recommended this early on in another episode to look up the different quick service options or the snack options before you go and just kind of see what is out there. Because like you could spend $14 on a hot dog and fries at Casey's Corner, and maybe you want to, and maybe that's amazing and that's excellent. But also for $18, so not that much more money, you could get like a shrimp and rice meal at Casey's Corner, and you might enjoy that a lot more, and that might be a lot more satisfying and a lot healthier if that is a quality that you want in your food at Disney. And so when you are doing this like research ahead of time, you can find like all the quick services are going to be in the same kind of price range. And so you can just find things in that price range that you think will be, like I said, the most hearty for you, the most interesting for you, the most satisfying for you. And I think that that is an important way to stretch your dollar. The other thing is that you can order off the kids menu. There is no rule that you can't. And especially when you're doing mobile order, I mean, order off the kids menu. That's totally fine. Like you might want to order 2 kids quick service meals throughout like a 6-hour day rather than just have like one big sit down meal, and you'll find that that food will like stretch you longer. In fact, I often order the kids like eggs for breakfast as a kids meal, and rather than get bacon, I get fruit, and then you also get another side, and so I get like 2 pieces of fruit. So I'll get like 2 tangerines or 2 little bags of apples, and then you get a drink. And so I'll take my little bottle of water, my little tangerine, or my little bag of apples, and I'll take that with me and like crunch on that before lunch when I'm in the parks. I just feel so smart. So take advantage of ordering off the kids' meals. It's a really economical way to have some lunch, and especially if you're at Disney and it's so hot, then those like the smaller meals might be just what you need. The other thing is like if you eat at a buffet in the parks, or of course outside of the parks as well, if you don't eat, like if you eat later in the window, like if you eat at 10 or 10:30 during a breakfast buffet, or you eat at 4 for a lunch buffet, you could actually get that meal to last 2 meals, right? Like you could be full enough that you don't need to like eat a second meal, and then you get to see the characters if you're at a character dining, for example, or you get to experience that particular buffet or that particular restaurant, and and then like not eat lunch or not eat dinner after that, or eat a kids meal for dinner, something like that. All right, so let's get back directly to the park. So things like lightning lanes or the individual lightning passes, of course, like you were never obligated to get any of those. And it is up to you if you think that the money that you are going to spend on those is worth the time you're going to save. So I am not someone that loves to do a lot of rides, so I don't often get the lightning lanes unless there is a ride I really want to ride, and often it's because I can then do like an individual lightning lane. If I don't have a lightning lane, I don't really miss it. I'll just keep an eye on the wait times, and if something is low, I'll go and ride the ride, which is always amazing. But because rides aren't like the key part of my trip, I can kind of take or leave lightning lanes. And so you need to think about that too. Is the time that you are going to spend in line worth whatever that you would pay if you were to get a lightning lane, or vice versa? And then like make that decision accordingly. Also, as I've said in the podcast many times, you are only paying for yourself. So there is something about saying like, well, it is only $15 and it is just me. You know, that kind of makes it a little bit more worth it. Again, like just don't bring that guilt with you. don't go crazy and spend money that you don't have. But don't bring that guilt with you because it is an expensive place. And so again, just think like your time versus your money. Do you want to spend 2 hours in a line or do you want to do lightning lanes? It's up to you. The other way that you can kind of take advantage of tickets are the different after hour or evening parties. So I mentioned this in another episode that one of the reasons why I'm not renewing my annual pass this year is because the annual pass members get such a low discount on specially ticketed events like Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, for example. It's actually kind of insulting how little our discount is, considering even though the party starts at 7 o'clock, we would get into the park at 3 p.m., meaning, and a lot of people do this as well, meaning I could go at 3 p.m. if I had bought just the ticket, and I could go hang out at the park and do things and ride rides and eat food and all that, and then stay around for the party that starts at 7 p.m. In the summer, I noticed last year, for example, there was 1 week in July in which every single night there was an after-hours event at one of the parks. And the after-hours events at nighttime are really great, especially in the summer, because the park has lower capacity, so you can walk onto most of the rides. In the past, things like bottled drinks and popcorn have been free, and so you can kind of just walk around eating your popcorn and riding rides. And again, you can come in a little bit earlier, then you don't have to wait in line, so you don't need to get lightning lanes, all that stuff. And sure, it is a little bit more money than a day ticket, but you also don't have to pay for things like lightning lanes. So think about whether or not that kind of strategic ticket buying makes sense for you, because again, it's a way of like stretching the money that you could spend. All right, so tip number 1 is no guilt. Tip number 2 were all those things about hotels. Tip number 3 were about the parks kind of and the tickets. Tip number 4 is about souvenirs. So souvenirs are expensive at Disney. And here's the thing, solos. Disney, as much as we all love Disney, Disney is a product of capitalism. It really wants you to spend a lot of money, as much as money as possible. And it is so seductive to spend money at Disney on souvenirs. In fact, there's a lot of times where you feel like you aren't even doing it right unless you have the ears and the backpack, the Loungefly backpack and the Pandora charms, which are crazy expensive, and like all these other things. And so number 1, just know that you are kind of being manipulated into needing and buying those things. Now, look, if you want to buy them, go for it, no problem. But just like you shouldn't bring the guilt of going on a solo vacation with you, nor should you bring the guilt of buying souvenirs with you either, or needing the Loungefly, or needing the Mickey ears, or all of that stuff. The first time I went to Disney as an adult, like 20 years ago, I didn't buy one thing because I was just so overwhelmed by Disney. Like, it was just so overwhelming in like the best way possible, but it just was like, I like, how would I even start? Like, what would I even buy? And I remember also looking around at people and thinking like, why would you ever have fine jewelry that is like Mickey Mouse shaped? And now 20 years on and going to Disney a lot, I'm just like, yeah, bring me that Mickey Mouse like shaped fine jewelry. $35 is a completely reasonable price to spend on a pin. Like, I need to bring as much stuff back with me as possible. And there are times where I get back from my Disney vacation and I unpack my suitcase and I kind of sulk a little because I didn't buy as much as I wanted. You see, it's quite dangerous. So, number 1, know that you don't need to buy all the stuff to be a Disney fan and to be there and to enjoy it. You don't at all. Number two, you can buy things in other places. So there are some Loungefly backpacks that I have seen at the Winners in my area. And the Winners is like Marshalls, I think, for Americans. So those types of stores. So if I wanted a Loungefly backpack, like I could search for things here in Toronto rather than buy them at Disney. You can also support some small businesses on Etsy and things like that in getting ears if you wanted ears. Like there are ways that you can buy some souvenirs ahead of time for your trip. In fact, if my cousins who all have little kids ever asked me for advice on an upcoming Disney trip, I would tell them, order a lot of Disney stuff online from Amazon or Walmart or wherever, and like every day, set it up in the hotel room as if like Mickey Mouse gifted that $10 Mickey Mouse stuffed animal to the kid rather than buying a $75 Mickey stuffed animal in the parks. Now, it's harder for you to do that to yourself solo because like you bought it already. Like it's hard to surprise yourself. So, think about ways, though, that you can kind of make your purchases ahead of Disney time a little bit more meaningful. So, like maybe you're getting like a face mask, for example, that sure, it's a Cinderella themed face mask, but you're going to use it in your hotel room. So it becomes a little bit more special. Or maybe you buy a baseball cap, like through Amazon or Walmart or whatever ahead of time, and then you get the characters to sign the brim of the baseball cap when you're at Disney. Like, there are ways to make the things that you buy ahead of time really meaningful once you get into the parks. Now, another suggestion is when you are at Disney World, when you are in Orlando, you can take a Lyft or an Uber to a place like Target, or the Vineland outlet and buy souvenirs there. So I've been to Target a couple times when I've been to Disney, a lot of times to get groceries if we're staying for like a week in the cabins, which I've done for my birthday the last couple of years. And they have a huge Disney merchandise section that's all like licensed products. And I actually did get a baseball cap there. I wore it on my birthday when I did like an archery lesson at Fort Wilderness, and it was like $10 and a baseball cap. It like served the function of what it needed, and I didn't need to spend $35-$45 on a baseball cap when like at the hotel because I needed one, but I hadn't brought one. So yeah, of course, like spending the money to take an Uber to Target spends money. There's now going to be a premium, but you can do a whole bunch of shopping there if you wanted to, and it could be worth your while. For example, when I go to the Vineland outlet, character outlet, it is totally worth my while, even though I have to pay for a Lyft there and back. The money that I save on the souvenirs that I buy, it totally makes it worth it. Plus, it kind of gets like my shopping bug out. So when I'm in the park, I don't feel as drawn to buying things because I've already bought a ton of stuff at this great discounted price when I was at the outlet. So again, you can think about going off-site to buy some souvenirs. Another thing that you can do is you can rethink what souvenirs that you bring home. So souvenir is a French word meaning we remember or I remember or to remember. So you could just like one of those colorful like Pepsi soda cups that you get, just if you're just buying a drink or whatever, you can bring those home as a nice little souvenir, put little pens in it, or I don't know, make it a little vase or something. I don't know. The souvenir buttons that you can get for free that says happy birthday or I'm celebrating, and the cast members can put your name on it. Those are free. That can be a souvenir. You can get super cheap postcards at the airport at MCO before you leave the airport, and get characters to sign them, to sign the postcards when you do meet and greets. So now you have this like specialized souvenir. All of these things can be They can be souvenirs that don't require you to spend a lot of money. You can also just think to yourself, like, I'm going to take some really artful pictures, or I'm going to document my trip in these particular ways, and those photographs become your souvenirs. So if you're looking to save money, like, don't feel pressure to spend money on souvenirs, because that pressure is everywhere and you don't necessarily need to buy into it, literally, if you're looking to save some money, for sure. All right, the next tip is taking advantage of the resorts, taking advantage of the free or low-cost activities there are in and around the hotels and the resort in general. So, I love a Disney boat. You could just take a really casual day taking Disney boats to and from different resorts, or taking the Skyliner to and from Disney resorts and experiencing everything that those resorts have to offer. And that doesn't involve going into the parks at all. And taking a Disney boat, taking the Skyliner, that doesn't cost you anything. Now, of course, once you get to your location, you might want to buy something to eat or whatever at one of the hotels, and there you go, but it's still way less of a cost than going to the parks. So yeah, to take advantage of all of that free Disney transportation and make that a part of your day. Like, make that what you're going to do that day. Also, some resorts, specifically the DVC resorts, I'm thinking of Key West, for example, have like free fitness activities like yoga or aqua fitness or whatever in the mornings. So you don't need to be staying at those resorts to partake in those activities. You can always go check out the activities, go to the resort, see the activities they have posted, and then maybe another day go and do those activities. So take advantage of them. Also, just walking around the resorts are beautiful. Fort Wilderness, I talk about that all the time, that you're in the wilderness, you can see deer, you can go to 2 different stables, totally free. I'll actually come back to Fort Wilderness in a second. Riverside and Port Orleans French Quarter, those are gorgeous hotels that you can walk around, be in these immersive environments, really feel the complete vibes that they're doing. There's just so many things that you can do around the resorts. You can go to Animal Kingdom Lodge and spend the whole day there. So just like there is a big savanna at Animal Kingdom that you can do your safari through, there is a giant savanna at Animal Kingdom Lodge, both the DVC building and the regular building. And there are all of these platforms that you can go and watch the animals from those platforms. But then you can also go, just like I've talked about a few times, to the end of the hallways and go and sit on the fire escapes and watch the animals from there. The Animal Kingdom Lodge hotels also have these cultural ambassadors from different countries in Africa who will do little activities or talk about different cultural elements of their country. And yeah, sure, they're activities for children, but I've done them a few times and I learned something, and I got a special bead, and that was really cool. Also, Animal Kingdom Lodge has the largest collection of African art and cultural artifacts outside the continent of Africa. So again, you can walk up and down the hallways of the hotels, read the different information, just make it a whole museum day. It's very cool. That hotel, just again, you can spend the whole day at that hotel. When you're poking around the hotels, if it's Animal Kingdom or another one, take a look at the quick service options at the different deluxe hotels, because what you'll find is that they often have different, maybe even better options than the quick service restaurants at the value and moderate resorts. So they, at Animal Kingdom Lodge, they have this delicious chicken and shrimp and rice bowl. I could literally eat it every single day. At their quick service restaurant, that's the same cost as a hamburger and fries at a value resort. I was at the Polynesian once, and I saw that they had this snack pack with pita chips and tangerines and carrots, which is just my ideal snack pack. Oh, and I also bought a cupcake. I mean, speaking of ideal. And these like little snack packs were perfect because I was able to bring it actually to the airport that day as like a little snack before the flight. Another time I went and I got one to have as like a little like brunch in the room before I like went out and found some lunch for myself. So go poke around to see if you can get some value, like quick service things at deluxe resorts that are just a better value for your money. Also at resorts, you can often see characters. Now, they are usually pretty random, but I've seen online that they are starting to put information in the lobby about when you can go see characters, like when characters will go pop up. So whether or not it's scheduled or not, always just kind of keep an eye out if you see one of the big Disney buses, not the like transportation buses like to and from the resorts, but these other buses that have like blacked out windows. That often means there are characters there. So again, if you're spending the day at the resort rather than going to the parks as a way to save money, keep an eye out for these characters and go get a picture. Go get a picture. I've done it a few times, even though I'm solo and there's no like organized line. So I just like walk in front of the kids who are in awe of seeing the characters, and I just take my selfie and then let the kids do their thing. It's very, very easy. But I'll go back to Fort Wilderness. Fort Wilderness Lodge has a campfire sing-along every single night where you can meet Chip and Dale, and that is free. It is very fun. I did it with my mother actually for like my birthday week a few years ago when we were staying there. The singer was very funny, and it was a very entertaining night. We could have bought a package to make s'mores. We didn't do that. And then Chip and Dale come out and they do a little song, and it was really great. Totally free. Totally free. So make use, if you are looking to be economical on your Disney trip, then take advantage of the things that the resorts have to offer too. And, yeah, it's easy to say the Disney boat will take you from here to there, but it's another thing to be like, oh no, this is what I'm doing today. I'm taking Disney boats. I'm exploring different resorts. Like that is a wonderful day. So there you go. That's another option. Okay, one final tip, and this isn't one I've done myself because it really seems to make more sense for Americans, is that there are places like Target and Sam's Club where you can get Disney gift cards for a discount. Like, I think it's like if you have a Target credit card, you get 5% off gift cards, and so therefore you get 5% more money than you're paying for your Disney gift card. I don't know. I don't really get it. But I don't think that there is that option in Canada. Please let me know. But a lot of people will save up their Disney trip money through these gift cards, through either getting them on discount or just, like literally making it a savings account. Every time you get, an extra $50, you put it on a Disney gift card, and then you bring all those Disney gift cards to Disney with you. So that's a really great way to save. It's a really good way to to save up for your trip, but also save some money if you get a discount. I don't think I would do that myself because every time I've tried to use a card payment other than my Magic Band, I've lost my credit card, and I find it very stressful. So I would be worried about losing the gift cards myself. But if you do something like any of the food festivals at Epcot, they will often, they encourage you to do a kind of gift card method, and you can buy a gift card at the different gift stores that are themed to the festival, and it will have a little an elastic thing that you can put on your wrist. So it's very difficult for you to lose. And I think they do that because a lot of locals will go to the food festivals, so they don't have Magic Bands. And that's a way for them to, put a whole bunch of money on and say, okay, I'm only going to spend this amount. So anyway, that's a good idea too. Please let me know if you used this discounted gift card method and how it has worked for you, because I'm very intrigued. And I think I would do that if we had that option in Canada. So please let me know if we do, but I would then just like transfer the money to my Magic Band. So it'd be more like a debit than a credit card. I don't know. Anyway, please let me know. All right, so I think that's all for my tips. Fun fact, although it's not really that fun, I had to totally re-record this episode like 2 hours before it's being published. Whatever, it's a long story. You don't need to hear it. So I feel like I'm missing things, but hopefully I am not. Please let me know if you have any suggestions that for saving money or getting your money to stretch a little bit further that should go on another episode. I feel like there is definitely a part 2 to this episode, but we need to crowdsource some ideas. So let's crowdsource. One thing I do want to point out in this episode is that nowhere have I suggested that you should rely on getting anything free or discounted. So you might have heard about pixie dusting, and actually I'm going to do a whole episode on pixie dusting. I'm really excited about it, which is like getting something for free or for discount or from a cast member. So sometimes people get like room upgrades, or sometimes people get like a piece of food, or even like a souvenir, right? I often get pixie dusted on my little travels, which are very special moments. And you will see in different Facebook groups, people strategizing how to get pixie dusted. And look, you can't really strategize how to get pixie dusted. It's really the prerogative of the cast member. And I'm sure if you have children and it's their birthday, I don't know, I'm sure there's ways that anyway, whatever. Don't rely on that. A pixie dusting is something really special, and I think it really ruins it for everyone if you try to contrive a situation in which you're getting something for free. Like, look, wear your birthday button proud. If you're going on a birthday trip, enjoy that birthday trip. Let everybody know. Get your free birthday cupcakes, 100%. But don't like lie and say it's your birthday trip to get free cupcakes. I think that's tacky. Like, let's say your birthday is in October, but you don't get to like take your birthday trip until December. But in your brain, it's your birthday trip. I think that's okay. But if you're just like, oh no, every time I go, I just say it's my birthday so I can get free stuff. I don't know. I feel like that's a little tacky. So I don't know. I mean, obviously you do you, but yeah, I don't know. That's not going to be my recommendation. Another tip that I have, and this is actually going to be the focus of a whole episode, probably in the next month or so. I've talked about it a few times, so don't worry, it'll definitely go up. But is just like asking for what you want. So if you get a dinner, for example, and the food is cold, or they don't get the side correct, or it's not what you ordered, or it's too salty, like, just ask for what you want, and oftentimes cast members will be able to accommodate, like getting you a new dinner or whatever. And I say this in the context of saving money or getting your money to stretch further, because if you have a really disappointing $50 meal, you just feel like you've wasted $50. But if you have gotten a really good $50 meal with excellent customer service, and that they have tried to accommodate your issues if you've had them, that makes it feel like that was money worth spending. And so that's the type of energy I encourage you to go with. All right. I hope I covered everything. But again, I feel like there will be another episode. So you need to tell me those tips so I can put together a part B for saving money episode, which I think would be really cool. So anyway, that's that. We'll talk to you next week. Bye. Hey Solos, it's Samantha. I hope you enjoyed this episode and all the episodes of Disney Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World. Let's keep this podcast as the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World, and please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe on any and all platforms that you listen. It'd be also really great if you supported the podcast by buying me a coffee. There is a link in the description below where you can go and pay with your Apple Pay for $3 American, which is about $5 Canadian, to help support the podcast. Also remember, for the month of March, there is a survey that you can also get in the link to the description below, where you can vote not only on my upcoming trip, but also about the direction of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and I can't wait to read your feedback. Bye.